Hi, Tegan.
Hi, how's it going this morning?
Oh, it's going. I've got the grandkids over here, so if I hear screaming and shrieking and crying, I have to go.
Oh,
That means you stay there and don't go.
I tell you. How are you guys?
I'm good.
Yeah? Any snow down your way?
It just started a couple minutes ago.
so glad it's not me for once.
Yeah, we had snow, now it's turning to rain. Not
Gotcha.
you for once.
It's supposed to snow quite a bit
That's
this weekend, but
lucky.
we'll see if it actually happens or not.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm supposed to leave on a road trip on Monday, so
Mickey's got to get new
that
internet, just so you know.
could be interesting. At least I'm going south. You, you what?
I said Mickey's
What'd
got
you
to get
say?
new internet, just so you know.
Oh, I know. I bought this house and they tell me it's got the best internet in town and the tech's been here 3 times.
Sweet.
I know it's terrible.
That works out well.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna start back through an actual set of classes. So we're gonna do clauses today.
Good.
Um, I am not logged in under Black Hills, so I cannot share. Wait, let me see. Maybe I can. Oh yeah, I can share. Okay, I'll fix that then.
Oh, there's Casey.
It is a Casey.
Hello. I have Fridays off from the airport this month, so
Lucky.
super exciting. I mean, I pay for it every other day of the week, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you
It
working
is.
like 410s or something?
I normally work right now Tuesday, Wednesday, State Farm, and then let's see for March, and then Sunday, Monday, airport. Um, and then I have some big class with the airport I have to do and a bunch of training, and so
Oh
there's.
boy.
But I ended up not being able to take it this month because I didn't get my they urine test you and drug test you and all that. So I didn't get that, so I got off the hook for this month.
Oh, you
So
didn't want him to
I
catch
gotta
it.
clean out that system anyway, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't want him to catch it, so you needed 30 days to clear the system, huh?
Yeah. So it worked out. My poor dog just had dental surgery yesterday. And
Oh,
she got 24 teeth removed.
oh wow.
So you'll see me in and out of the camera, but I'm feeding her scrambled eggs. So
Oh, okay.
I'm here, I'm listening, I'm just trying to feed her. Yeah, she's got like 10 teeth left, so lucky her.
Oh, poor baby.
Hey, Tegan, and I'm gonna. So I guess everybody that's on here. So, be we were in a contracts class on Monday this week in Cheyenne with Steve Willoughby, and one of the conversations we had was about 1031 exchange language. And I know you and I have talked about this, Tegan. I think we got this from Chris Long, for what it was. Um, my recommendation would still be whoever the third party provider is that's actually going to process the 1031 exchange. The recommendation is still to get whatever language they want in place, because if we use just one of these and it's either inadequate in some way or doesn't cover everything or whatever the case is, then we're basically taking liability for that, right? So these three I will get out and run by Mike Lansing just to make sure that he's okay with them. I don't know if he's going to say they're good or not either. So recommendation is to get that language from service provider first to do it. And then if not, you may have an option here, but get it from that service provider that's going to actually do the 1031 so that and that way you've got you guys covered in terms of what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we took a 1031 deal for Watson Hennessy Group 2 weeks ago, and he said just basically have them get a hold of him first before they do any paperwork or anything, and
Yeah.
he will fill out all this language and everything for you guys.
Yeah. And that's their job, right? They're the ones that are the professionals at it. I may, if that's the case, I think I'm going to pull this language out then, and we're just going to leave it at the recommendation that, reach out to whoever the third party provider is that's going to do the 1031, and then let them give you the language for it. So if anybody has any questions about that, and you're talking to them, that's why there will be no 1031
Could you make a
exchange.
note in there that says like all 1031 C provider or something like that?
No, Casey, I cannot.
You'd be a doll. I have a question on that though. So I have a land deal, and originally we were not doing a 1031, and then really late in the game last week he said I am doing a 1031, and for the buyer. I don't have to change my contract at all as long as that provider's okay with what I already have in there, right?
I'm going to say, as a non-lawyer guy, yes.
Because
Um,
all they each have their own lawyer. It's that big land deal that I have.
yeah,
They each have their own lawyer. The 1031 has cleared all the documents. He actually signs on it today, the
gotcha.
buyer, and then next week the seller signs. So I'm assuming everybody's fine with everything then.
So, and I think I've said this before, but so typically the 1031 language is just this: hey, we're willing to work with you, and we're willing to do what we need to do as long as you don't compromise deadlines and that kind of thing, and we're working in good faith to get this deal done in like this amount of time. But because, like you're talking about, there's time hurdles, there's things they got to do, making sure that they're all square and stuff, that
Mhm.
at the beginning you're trying to get them to sign off on it. If you're already in it and they're rolling and both sides are okay, you might ask them if they're going to are you guys going to close on time?
Yeah.
Then, yeah, you're probably okay. But I would ask them if there's anything they want to put in. You know what I mean? You
But
can just ask them, hey, is there anything else we need to do to make you guys all comfortable with this? Because that's what it's about, is making sure that everybody is informed on what kind of a deal it is. And then for what they got going on, just making sure that they everybody knows what's up with the deadlines.
okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. I don't want to share that one anymore. Okay, so we will just put in here. Okay. Talk to me about clauses or issues that you guys have had, or that you have questions about first.
Well, I'm getting ready to do a land, like in a subdivision, like a couple of building lots. And I've done a land like north of by Bar None that didn't have any of the utilities and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, this one, it's just a matter of purchasing the property. They've got power, gas.
Yeah,
The
subdivision stuff. Yeah, subdivision stuff is way easier typically
uh-huh.
because
They do
everything's
have to do
already
their
done.
own septic.
They are on septic.
No, they're going to have to do their own septic, and then we need to build something in about, they want to be able, the covenants say you can have horses, and the other side said, my buyers want to have 2 to 4. So they said, just put that in the contract, how, just to address it.
So you're trying to get somebody to change the covenants.
Well, the covenants are kind of vague because the covenants are like, they they don't want it to get overgrazed, and it's a very nice hoity-toity development. So the only animals they're saying no to are goats and roosters.
Okay, but they would put a limit on the horses, I assume.
Potentially, yeah.
And do they have a limit on them now in the covenants?
Not like a strict limit, but the buyer wants to make sure that he's okay.
I would make so we went through a process of getting an exception for
Uh-huh.
a set of covenants from an HOA, and what we ended up doing is getting a letter from the HOA with all of the documentation from the request and the vote of the HOA when
Okay.
they gave us, because they basically gave us an exception to go from 1 to 2 horses to 3 to 4 in perpetuity
Uh-huh.
forever on that lot.
Yeah.
But I would make sure that you have something done in writing, ready to go, because as that HOA evolves and changes, and they want to come in and say, look,
Mm-hmm.
now can only have 2, whatever the case is, and then just make sure that
Mm-hmm.
you're documented and that you've got something. And you might want to definitely recommend that they talk to their attorney, because your
Mm-hmm.
little contract isn't going to change the covenants.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So even if you put it in, they can do whatever afterwards.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about compliance real quick for NAR stuff. This buyer agency set right here, you guys are putting this in your buyer agency agreements? Be honest.
I'm not always putting the transaction fee.
Okay, that's
Like my
fine.
kids, I just didn't do it.
Yeah, you can make your decision on your transaction fee,
Okay.
but
In the
no other
buyer
agreement and the
agency,
authorization to negotiate.
isn't that already in there though?
Which one?
The authorization?
Nope,
Okay.
nope, it is not.
And on a customer agreement, I don't have to worry about either of those.
That is correct.
Okay.
And so like South Dakota contracts, buyer agency agreements already have this no other agreement in the agreement itself. And then this authorization one, I believe, is in there as well, bottom of the section. But we're just trying to make sure that they understand, because what happens is sometimes you'll make an offer, you'll ask for your 2.5%, and then they come back and there could be some, hey, look, they'll take everything we offered for me, but they only want to pay you 2%, and you want to go back and negotiate that or not, and not just accept it, and you want to make sure that they've been on board with that since you started. So make sure that that's not just to put it in and have them sign off on it, but it means that all of those things will end up being are negotiable, and will end up being negotiated out of that contract. Does that make sense? And then how are you guys listing?
What
Are
do
you
you
offering a
mean?
percentage in the contract? Are you offering an up to a cap?
I
Mm,
am doing the offering it up to, having it at whatever percentage, and then we negotiate it from there upon seller net. That
And
one.
how's that going?
It's going good. A little bit of confusion from some of the buyer agents. I just don't explain it very well, uh, or they don't understand it, just because they don't have something like this in line. But it's been going good. My sellers love it, so I'm happy with it.
So I'm an agent on the other side, and I call you, Tegan, and I say, hey, what are you guys paying on XYZ property off of Highway 280 or whatever? What do
We
you tell
are.
me?
We are offering buyer's compensation. It is decided upon the seller's net, so I'll receive any offers and present it to my seller, and from there they negotiate the percentage from there. But just include it in your offer in section whatever at the end.
Gotcha. How
And
are you
then,
listing,
oh,
Mickey? No, that's good.
well, yeah, I had one that did an up to, and then one that just did a, set 2%. And then and then I put the do not disclose, just only that we are paying, not with the amount. And just, I said what Tegan says, just put it in the contract. And then, but my confusion arises from, I had this big conversation with David, making sure that it's only check marked that the fees are coming from the seller, not the listing broker. But I was very confused, like, because before we would check both.
Okay, so, and I
And
might have to talk to David about this. So there is
uh-huh,
still debate as to whether you should check one or both. But
uh-huh,
if you check, so there are still agents in Wyoming that are listing and just putting a percentage out, right? If that's the case, either way, either that way, or if they're keeping whatever and then offering, I'm sorry, or if they're saying, hey, I work for 2.5 or 3, and the other part is negotiable, that part would come directly from the seller, right? If the agent has already made an agreement with them to keep 6% and offer out 2.5 or 3 or whatever, the seller is not going to pay anything additional either. They're just telling you that they're going to work it out on their side, right? So checking both, I don't think is a bad thing, unless
uh-huh.
David has some reason why you should not.
Well, and I mean, honestly, granted, I'm always sleep deprived and always don't have enough time. So, I mean, it was kind of like a conversation going in a circle. Like he was trying to educate me by questioning me, but then I don't know if I'm giving the right answer. Like I never got to a solid foundation. So ever since then, I've just only been doing seller.
Tegan, what do you check?
I just click seller. I don't do the buyer or the seller's agent on it. I just let them know, and then in the first portion, I put 3.5, and then say everything else is negotiated at the end. Just as my protection, I know Julie did the both, but I want them to know that it's coming out of their pocket, not
Yeah,
from the commission that they're offering to me.
which that makes sense to me that way. Yeah.
What are you doing, Casey?
I've done it both ways. I'm torn. Um, and I've also done it with like most of my people are like, let's just do the set percentage and pay it. But then like my one in Gillette, we left it up to, and we just made it work, like because you get 2.5% in that area. So which is fine. We made it work. And
Right.
but I feel like I explained it similar to what Tegan's saying, where it's, at the end of the day, it just depends on how those numbers shake out, and we'll do our best, and I'll bring it to the seller. And but
Okay. So the thing I want you to remember is this line right here. And that is that if you use this clause above, this one right here, that you have to line out that compensation section or put NA in it or do something.
So by line out, am I okay to just put slashes through each of the prompts, or do I need to physically line out every word that's in those prompts?
I don't know which, so I would probably pick the easier one, which
Okay.
I think would be just throwing red lines across all of it. Otherwise, I'm doubling those slots in there. Um, where you're going to put your offer, where you're going to say, hey, this is what I work for. If you don't line that section out, then there's opportunity in there for somebody to say, hey, well, if that isn't how the contract says that you guys are doing it. So you just want to make sure you have it. And then if you're using this one, you need to put in this one with the comp intermediary unrepresented buyer. If you're using the one that's in the contract, you're already defining this section. And you're saying we're going to pay 2.5% to an intermediary, to an agent, not a sub-agent, and to a customer who comes in. If you take that section out, you have to add this one in.
So up above it, you're saying line out from the dot. If you fill in the blank percent, and then where it says from $ on, that's what you would blank out.
No, in the physical copy of the contract that you're doing, On the first page at the bottom, it says for a buyer's agent, for a customer, for a
Oh,
XYZ. You're lining up
okay.
that portion so that they know that you're not paying those, but you just click the yes or no for whoever wants, like whoever you're allowing to represent a
Okay.
buyer.
Okay. I am doing that then. Okay, good. Thank you.
And then, yeah, so if you line that section out and you use the up to, then you want to use that next portion right there, which just says that you are, if you have an unrepresented buyer or someone that comes in as, so intermediary or customer basically come in, that you can still do that deal. And here's what your pricing is so that you don't have to go back and surprise them with that discussion later. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Have you used that when you're doing the up to?
Yes, every time.
It's
Every
been a long
time.
time, but yeah.
What's that?
It's been a long time, but I have.
Okay.
But can't you just use it even if you're not using the up to on the comp intermediary?
You're defining it already in the contract. It would be a duplicate. Here, let
Okay.
me open this real quick.
Ever since all this new stuff, I've just been always lining that out and using both of these. Not that I've had tons of listings, but
Oops, that's a buyer agency agreement. That is not what I wanted.
because it was my understanding that how the language was in the contract was like not correct. And that's why we were doing this.
No, the language is just so that we get the other option to do it.
Gotcha.
Sucks when you had to sell a house 3 times. There's all kinds of contract shit in there. So this section right here, Mickey, tells you automatically. So offer
Are you
cooperation
sharing
and
it?
compensation to other brokers who are sub-agents, agents,
Can you share it,
intermediary.
Sean? I can't see it.
Oh no?
Uh-uh. I mean, hate to be a pain in the butt, but
No, that's okay. Thank you for telling me. How about now?
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So that section when you get to number 4 right there, you're defining how all of those people are going to be paid. So you can't use the one that says, "Hey, if somebody comes in and I represent them, I'm going to offer 4% or 5% or whatever your number is there," because you've already defined it right here.
Gotcha.
So if somebody comes in as a customer, this one says that we were going to offer them at this time 2.5%. This is a listing from way back in July or August of last year. So that was how we had done it and already offered it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then to your point, Tegan, I wish I could just highlight all that, block it, and just read it out. But I draw lines through it. You could put just your lines in there, or you could type NA in there, whichever one's easier for you. All right. Um, and I know I ask you guys this like on a weekly basis. Anything that you've come up against that you don't have a clause for, that you feel like you need one for?
No.
No?
Nope.
Any clauses that you've read that you feel like the language is wrong, something's not right in it when you go to put it in?
Well, I'm just concerned, like, I feel like this offer that I'm gonna probably end up writing, I just want to make sure that I have them protected enough. I mean, obviously they're gonna have their inspection period to make sure they can get the right builder, and they have to submit things to the HOA for the architectural stuff.
So there's going to be a due diligence period in there?
Uh-huh.
Um, do you, that would be one that I would say would be kind of the one-off, or not one-off because more than a few people do it or whatever the case is. But if you're looking for just
Uh-huh.
a straight due diligence clause, I would put the language in there and then reach out to Will or Tim or myself or somebody and just have them go over it real
Okay.
quick. And I would just do a straight due diligence period where they get an opportunity to inspect whatever. That's
Mm-hmm.
getting approval through the HOA to build the building that they're looking for, all of that kind of stuff. If they need to talk to a lawyer, whatever they got going on. And I just put it all
Mm-hmm.
into one piece. And then if they're good, they move forward. So in your inspection part of the contract,
Uh-huh.
I would just put C, I would line it out too and see additional provisions, or see that section of your contract where you're going to write that due diligence clause. You do a lot of the land stuff up there, Tegan. What do you use? Tegan must be on the phone with the town of Newcastle
Mm-hmm.
making money. I think the land contract isn't much different than the house contract. It still gives you an inspection period in there. In that inspection period, you can inspect whatever you want. But if you want to write just a general due diligence clause, you can just put it
Mm-hmm.
in additional provisions
Okay.
and then line that other one out. And then just do 30 days or 45 days or whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you think they need after you talk to them and they talk to their lawyer and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it took us 30 days to get the HOA to call a meeting, take a vote, put everything in writing, get everything done so that we could move forward on that section.
Mm-hmm.
And that had a house on it and all kinds of other stuff. But we just wanted opportunity to make sure that the HOA was going to be okay with everything.
Yeah.
Home sale contingencies. How have you guys been doing with those?
Not a huge fan, but still getting a couple of them.
Yeah, nobody's a huge fan, dude. I had one under contract here in Cheyenne that was dependent on a sale in Casper, that was depending on a sale coming into Casper, and the first one bailed out. So that deal fell apart, and then they had to sell it again. We're on the second half of the second sale of that house. Had one in Cheyenne that had one under contract who was buying one, or who was selling to somebody else, who was selling to somebody else, and that guy walked away from his deal. So had to resell it again. You can our contingency contract says so if you look at this, can you see that clause right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this line right here, in the event the sellers receive another written acceptable non-contingent offer from a third party, then they can kick out. So we try and make sure that you can only accept a non-contingent so that you don't end up with a whole bunch of dominoes. But right now in the market, people aren't caring a whole lot. They're like, look, it's been on the market for 3 months. If we got somebody that's interested, let's make sure that we get them under contract and see where we can go. But there are a lot of deals falling apart for those. What do you guys put in if you have a house that needs to be sold when you're making an offer? Do you put in the 3-day or the kick-out clause or 48-hour or whatever you do? Or you just tell them the home sale or the purchase is contingent on the sale?
I do that when the purchase is contingent.
And then you let them respond to you?
Yeah.
So if they want a kick-out clause, if they want whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody else do the same thing? Mickey Lou?
Yep. That's
So if you get one like that, do you respond immediately with a kick out?
It depends. I feel like I let the seller decide, but like right now, I mean, the average house here is taking like 90 days to sell. So, I mean, I try to be reasonable with it too. It's not like our market is hot. So
No, that's okay. Just remember that if it says, if your contract just says this contract is contingent upon the successful sale and closing of this property on MLS by, whatever date, that kind of thing, they can tie you up in that contract all the way till the end. Make sure that you have the conversation with your sellers that you should probably respond and say, hey, if you get an offer, you want to be able to present that offer, look at it and accept it. And if you accept it, you can give them, and Tim's about the 48-hour thing. It doesn't really matter. You can either kick it out or you can't. It doesn't take 72 hours typically or 3 days to figure out that you can't do it. It's just kind of the standard we use in Cheyenne. You could do 24-hour or 48-hour and sub it into that clause and not worry about it.
I feel like I use the short one when I'm representing the buyer and the long one when I'm representing the seller. So that the seller whoever brings that contract, like you're saying, can't get a contingent on their sale.
And even if they could get a contingent, they would have, I wouldn't take a contingent on the other side. I would take one that, it would still be contingent on closing.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, whichever way you want to do it and whatever time frame you want to use, I'm okay with. Just make sure that your sellers have an option to kick an offer out and they're not stuck in it for 4 months.
Right.
Because I could tie you up in an offer that has no date on it or kick out until the closing date in the contract, plus maybe a lender extension in the contract. So I could hang on to you for a long time.
but if we can't close, like if it said before closing date defined, and you had a closing date of May 1st, if they can't make it by May 1st and we don't sign an extension,
right,
that would give us an out, right?
It would, but think about a contract that has a 90-day close date on it.
Right.
Do you want to? What if you get an offer on 45 days in?
Okay.
And this is if you're the seller, for what it is, responding to a buyer. Just don't let the buyer dictate, or the buyer's agent dictate what you got. I would tell you as a buyer's agent, I would write in my contract, the home sale is contingent on this, and then I would let you respond to me and let it ride forever because I want to tie you up. Right. And I want to have my guy have an opportunity to buy it. If I'm a seller, I'm looking and going, yeah, man, that's great, but I don't want you tying me up 60 days and then jumping out. So I want an opportunity to kick you out. I might delay that for 2 weeks. I might give you 2 weeks to try and sell your house before a kick out clause goes into effect. So you've got a little bit of time because that's a negotiating tactic. Maybe I take a little higher price to let you have 2 weeks to try and sell your house without competition. But just make sure you know what all the repercussions of all of those things are as you're using them. You guys doing any backup offer stuff? If you take an offer as a backup or write an offer as a backup, using that language?
I haven't really done much of those.
Either.
You just kind of want to know what they are. Because if somebody comes in, how about this? How about if somebody wants you to, so when you're listing a property, they want you to make sure that you continue to take offers as backup offers all the way until you get closed. You should
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're right.
I do have a question on that backup offer. So, and again, this is from being in a different state. And I don't know if it's this way here. So in Washington State, if you put your client in a backup offer, they're accepting every single one of the things that was in the primary offer, and they're just wanting to have the opportunity to purchase it if for whatever reason that first offer falls through. So
I don't think they're accepting anything in the first offer.
Okay, good. Okay. That makes life easier.
Yeah, no, the only thing that they're accepting are the terms in their offer.
Got it.
And this one is just telling them that they understand that they're in the backup position, not in primary.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if the first deal falls apart, they get the first right to buy it.
Nice.
So you would just put that like in my second backup offer if I never been lucky enough yet. So if you got a backup offer, I would like counter back to them and say, hey, listen, the buyer acknowledges blah 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 in like a counter offer, right?
Yep. And just say, hey, if you want to present it as a backup offer, that's awesome. They'll accept it. And then I would just send this language back to them in the counter, and then any other changes that you might make for it.
Okay.
And all it means is that they just know that they are not in first position. So it's another one of those informational pieces for what it is. Yeah, we don't really. So the last thing I guess I'll tell you still is the less clauses you can use in the contract, the better off you are. So how about what you use in a purchase agreement? Do you guys do a covenants receipt in there?
I just do it separate.
Okay. Lender extension if you
list of it. So I guess I have put it in the contract and then I make them do it anyway, my separate paper.
Gotcha. If you're doing it in the contract, make sure there's a copy of the covenants with the contract.
I do the second one, lender extension.
Okay. Have you had any pushback on that one at all?
No.
Again, I will tell you, easier to get that signed on the front side and then use it if you need it than it is to try to negotiate an extension on the other end. Well, so one of the things that we had a conversation about in class on Monday as well was that there was a court case in Wyoming where the well said, the well clause said, we want a functioning well. Can anybody tell me what the issue is with that clause?
Isn't it too broad?
Yeah, what's a functioning well?
That could be subject to.
Yeah, the water per minute or whatever could be like 1 instead of like a 10.
right? And does a functioning well take care of any bacterial issues? Does it?
Right. Yeah. They
I mean,
wouldn't.
what does it? What does it really do, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that's in here, this one tells you that this one is basically just a water test for total coliform. Chemically, the water will be classified as suitable or unsuitable for human consumption, livestock, all that kind of thing. If I wanted a gallons per minute or some other kind of test, I would have to add that into this one because it's not on there. So depending on what they're going to do,
But
and there
then
are no
doesn't your
standards for it.
inspection cover that anyway?
What's that?
If you do that during your inspection time frame, that would cover you, wouldn't it?
You would still get the opportunity to do it because you can inspect anything you want
Mm-hmm.
in there. But yeah, we make them pay for this one as a seller in Cheyenne. I don't know what you guys are doing, but we make
I
them
would
pay
make
for
my
this one.
buyer pay for it.
Yeah, so it costs $375 down here for the Laramie County Environmental Health Department to do that inspection and well test. So we have the seller pay for it. Nobody says no down here for it.
That's
So
cool.
might be an opportunity. And then I would just make sure that whoever you're recommending there is qualified to do it. So some people down here use Joe Blow Well Guy, who goes out and takes his little plastic bag, puts water in it, sends it somewhere to get it tested, and then says, yep, your water's all good. I would want zero responsibility. I want an inspector that is qualified in whatever between myself and the results of that well and water and sewer and all that kind of jazz. And if somebody comes to me and says, hey, why did you have those guys inspect it? And I say, well, I recommend them. They do a good job. Well, here's what happened. At least this way I go, hey, look, the most qualified people I know are the health department that sets the standards in our area and works with that and approves them and does all that kind of thing. So have your butt covered a little bit. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Running into any escalation clauses yet?
No.
No.
Mickey, you had one the other day or no?
No.
I think it was Casper that we had one. We've seen a couple of down here on specific properties, really good properties. I think Trisha in Casper had one on a trailer house. So,
That's crazy.
yeah, they must have really wanted that thing. Are you guys using this broker disclaimer one?
No.
So I will tell you this. It tells you all of this in the contract at one point or not. It's a pretty easy way to go over all of it and make sure they understand it. So I would recommend using it and just having the conversation. And if you go over it and be very specific about it, at least later you can go, hey, remember about all those things I told you I don't do? At the top, this is one of those where you're going to have to check with your legal counsel, or you're going to have to get a surveyor, or you're going to have to get somebody that's qualified to do that piece. Yeah, don't use them if you don't have to. Make sure that you're not using one that conflicts with something else in the contract. So make sure if they're one of the ones that we're asking you to line something out and use differently, that you do that. And then other than that, just make sure that if you're in doubt and you're going to write something outside of these, that you get a second set of eyes on it from myself, Will, Tim, or David, so that you have support on that side if something goes haywire with it.
Cool. I'm gonna have to hop off because Grandpa needs backup.
What's that?
I'm gonna hop off of here because Grandpa needs backup with the 1-year-old and the 2-year-old.
Nope, you're good. We're done. So
All right. Thank you very, very much. I may have to call you on the weekend, but I'll try not to. How's that?
no, you're good. You're
All
good.
right. Thank you. Bye,
You betcha.
guys.
Thanks, Casey. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
Bye.
luck with the dog and not having to land planes today.
I know, right? Thank God. See you later, Sean.
You bet. See you guys.